I told her no, firmly, directly, and without hesitation. My ex's wife wanted an equal say in our kids' lives, but I wasn't having it. It all started when my ex-husband left me. He cheated and moved on with her. They've been together for a couple of years now, married less than one. He waited for our divorce to go public with her. Didn't want our kids to know he'd been cheating. It was messy, painful, and, honestly, infuriating. I can't stand either of them. Him for the betrayal, her for knowing he had a family. Yet, she expected me to help them lie, to deceive my own kids, as if that would ever happen. We had a rocky marriage. We were in counseling, trying to work through it, but he was already elsewhere, already with her, saying he wanted to fix things while planning his escape. Now, we share custody of our kids, aged 9 and 7. Every decision must be mutual between him and me. His wife, however, wanted in on those decisions. She demanded an equal voice. I refused. And that's where the chaos began. She wanted to change their swimming lessons. I said no. She insisted on discussing it. I still said no. Then, my ex tried to intervene. I told him my answer hadn't changed. They could discuss whatever they wanted. But decisions, they were between him and me, not her. She pushed for changes in their extracurricular activities. Again, I refused to engage. I told her to talk to him, not me. I wasn't going to entertain her demands. She even wanted to switch their pediatrician, just because her friend had a different one. My ex wasn't even on board with that. Yet, he was angry at me for not giving her a sow. But I had to stand my ground. I had to co-parent with him, sure, but not with her. She was the other woman, not the mother of my children. I didn't owe her anything. I was clear. Decisions about my kids were between me and their father, not her. If she wanted a voice, it was through him, not directly with me. I made it clear. I had children with him, not with her. But was I wrong for setting that boundary? Should I have let her in more? Or was I right to hold my line? As much as I tried to keep things civil, it seemed like every time I put my foot down, the tension just ramped up. Her frustration was palpable, and she'd often try to catch me off guard with new suggestions. Like the time she suggested we switch up the kids' bedtime routine because she read some article online. I mean, really? Bedtime routines? No, not having it. I knew my ex was caught in the middle, but honestly, that was his doing. He made his choices. Still, it was like he was trying to play peacemaker, asking me to just hear her out. But I couldn't bring myself to entertain the thought of sitting down with her as if we were some kind of team. The kids were my priority always. They needed stability, not constant changes, because their dad's new wife had an idea she wanted to try. And every time she pushed, it felt like she was trying to edge her way into a role that wasn't hers to take. One day, after another heated discussion about something trivial, I sat the kids down. I wanted to make sure they understood that, no matter what, both their parents loved them. I tried to explain, in terms they could understand, why things might feel a bit different sometimes. It was tough, seeing them caught in the crossfire of adult drama. Meanwhile, my ex was getting increasingly frustrated. I could tell he was under pressure from his wife to stand up to me more. During one exchange, he blurted out that maybe we should reconsider our custody arrangement if I couldn't cooperate. That hit me like a ton of bricks. The idea that he'd even suggest something like that over his wife's demands was beyond infuriating. I fought back the urge to yell, took a deep breath, and simply said, "We have an agreement. If you want to change it, we'll do it legally, not like this." That shut him up, at least for the moment. It was a reminder that despite everything, we had a framework that was supposed to be about the kids. not about placating his new wife. I knew things weren't going to get easier overnight, but I was determined to stick to my guns. The kids needed me to be strong, to be the constant they could rely on in this mess. Even if that meant dealing with more chaos from their father and his wife. But as time went on, things didn't calm down. Instead, they escalated. My ex's wife found new ways to push her agenda. She'd show up at drop-offs trying to engage in discussions I had no interest in having. I'd just smile politely, say goodbye to the kids, and leave. I wasn't going to let her get under my skin. Then came the birthday incident. My daughter was turning 10, and we'd planned a small party with her friends at our house. My ex's wife suggested we combine efforts for a bigger celebration at their place. I knew what that meant. She wanted to host, to play the doting stepmom role, but my daughter had asked for something specific, and I wasn't about to change those plans. When I declined, she pushed harder. She even went as far as to tell my ex that I was being selfish, that I was putting my feelings before the kids. That was rich, coming from her. Still, I held my ground, refusing to let her dictate how we celebrated a milestone in my daughter's life. After that, my ex started sending me long emails attempting to broker peace, asking me to consider his wife's feelings. He seemed to forget the real issue was about our children, not soothing his wife's need for control. I responded with one clear message. The kids come first, always. I won't compromise on that. Things hit a boiling point during a school event. We were all there, awkwardly sharing space. My ex's wife approached me, trying to strike up a conversation about upcoming holiday plans. I had to bite my tongue and keep my cool. I told her that I'd discuss holiday schedules with their father, as we always had. Later, my ex approached me, visibly stressed. He asked if we could find a way to make things easier. I told him I was willing to communicate better, but my boundaries stood firm. I was open to discussions between him and me, but I wasn't going to entertain his wife's demands directly. As I drove home that night, I reflected on the whirlwind of emotions and conflict. It was exhausting, but necessary. My kids needed consistency, and I was determined to provide that. But I couldn't help but wonder, was I being too rigid? Was there any part of me that should be more accommodating to this woman who, despite everything, was now a part of their lives? In the end, I knew I had to keep protecting my kids' stability. I had to be their safe harbor amidst the storm. But sometimes I still ask myself, is it worth the constant battle to keep her at bay? It's like every move I made was met with resistance, and I couldn't shake the feeling that my ex's wife was trying to play a game I never signed up for. Each suggestion she made seemed less about the kids and more about marking her territory. Then there was the school conference. My ex and I had always attended together, but this time she showed up too. I could feel the tension rise as she tried to insert herself into discussions about our children's progress. I stayed focused, engaging with the teachers, but it was hard to ignore her hovering presence. I got it, really. She wanted to be involved, but it felt intrusive, like she was stepping on sacred ground. After the conference, she suggested we all grab dinner to discuss what we heard. I politely declined, saying I had plans, and left with the kids. The truth was, the thought of sitting across a table from her, pretending we were a united front, made my skin crawl. My ex called later, upset that I'd brushed off the dinner idea. He said I was being unreasonable, that his wife just wanted to help. I told him I appreciated the thought, but that we needed to keep things simple for the kids. They didn't need to see more tension or feel like they were stuck in the middle of a power struggle. As weeks passed, It became a routine dance. My ex's wife would propose something, I'd refuse, and then she'd try to get my ex to convince me otherwise. I started to wonder if there was any way to break this cycle. It was draining, and I worried about the impact on the kids. I decided to talk to them, gauge their feelings about everything. I asked if they were okay with how things were, if they felt caught between us all. My heart broke a little when they shrugged and said they were used to it. That was the last thing I wanted, for them to feel this was normal. So I had a long conversation with my ex. I laid it all out, how this constant tug-of-war was affecting the kids, how it was wearing me down. I asked if there was any way we could shield them from the drama, keep things peaceful for their sake. He seemed to understand, at least for a moment. But then, predictably, his wife threw another wrench into the works. She suggested a new after-school program. And when I didn't respond immediately, she followed up with a message about how I was making things difficult. I took a deep breath before replying, sticking to my guns. Decisions about the kids will be made between their parents. Please respect that. The message was clear, but the strain continued. I kept wondering if this was just the way it was going to be, forever a balancing act with no end in sight. Finally, one weekend, when the kids were with their dad, I took some time for myself. I needed clarity, space to breathe and think. I realized that while the conflict was exhausting, my priority was clear. The kids needed one stable, unwavering force in their lives, and I was determined to be that for them. But even now, as I try to navigate this complicated dynamic, one question still lingers, haunting me late at night. Will I ever find peace in this chaos? I can't tell you how many times I've been on the verge of just throwing my hands up and yelling, "Enough!" But every time I feel that way, I take a deep breath and remind myself who I'm doing this for. It's not about me, or even about my ex and his wife. It's about the kids, and they deserve better than being pawns in this never-ending chess game. One day, out of the blue, my ex's wife sent me an email. It was surprisingly civil, almost like an olive branch. She suggested we meet, just the two of us, to talk things over. Part of me was wary. What new angle was she trying now? But another part of me thought, maybe, just maybe, this could be a chance to ease the tension for everyone's sake. We met at a coffee shop, a neutral territory. As we sat there, sipping our drinks, the awkwardness was palpable. She started by saying she understood why I felt the way I did, but she wanted to help, to be a part of the kids' lives in a positive way. Her words were sincere, but I couldn't shake the feeling of skepticism. I told her plainly that while I appreciated her wanting to be involved, the kids had their parents to make decisions for them. I explained how crucial it was for them to have consistency and how too many voices could lead to confusion. She nodded, seemingly understanding, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. The conversation ended on a tentative note of agreement. She'd step back a bit, and I'd try to be more open to her input if it was communicated through my ex. As we parted ways, I felt a tiny sliver of hope that maybe we could find some common ground. Still, the reality of co-parenting with my ex and his wife remained challenging. There were still moments of friction, especially when she felt sidelined. But I stood my ground, always bringing it back to what's best for the kids. Some days, I feel like I'm walking a tightrope, trying to balance it all without tipping over. But I remind myself that every decision I make is with their well-being in mind. Even if it means having to deal with the drama and the politics, I know I'm doing what I have to do. And so, the story continues. I keep pushing forward, navigating this complicated web of relationships. But late at night, when it's quiet and the kids are asleep, I find myself wondering, will this ever get easier?